I was roaming around out in the middle of nowhere and I found this flashlight laying on the ground. Okay, no big deal until I looked it up on the internet and found out the ProTech Streamlight sells for $125 new. Unless you want the charger, that's like $175. And it's rated at 3,500 lumens. Am I pronouncing that right? I'm used to the old days when we rated by candle power. 3,500 is a pretty big number. I'm told these go out to like a quarter mile. So even though I usually test cars, we're going to test this flashlight too. See if it's worth $125. Alright, it's dark. Let's see what 3,500 lumens. Again, if I'm pronouncing that right, ooh, lights up the whole campsite. And I see I'm attracting every insect on the planet. That's 100 feet away. We got trees out there that are 700 feet away. I don't think we'll be able to see that on the camera. And we have trees, according to my rangefinder, 1,200 feet away. And yes, I can see them even though you can't on the camera. This thing's really got some guts. And you go in the sky, really goes up. I'm going to turn this off or I'm going to get eaten alive by the insect and attract all the vampire bats. So that's my review of the Streamlight flashlight that costs $125. I guess if you need something with guts, it's definitely worth the price. But I'm lucky because I got mine for free. We're at our garage and test facility. Let's roll out what's behind the secret door. Looks like we got ourselves a Mazda CX-30. Let's take a closer look. It's very windy out. Might make this video difficult to do. Let's do a quick walk around. Looks like the Mazda CX-5 and the Mazda CX-3. This is actually an in-between the Mazda CX-5 and CX-3. They don't call it the CX-4. They use that name in another country for one of their vehicles. So they came up with CX-30. Okay, whatever. The base price of a Mazda CX-30 runs around $22,000 for a front-wheel drive version. This is the premium, loaded up with everything, all the safety gadgets and other electronic nannies. Leather trim, a whole list of things I won't mention to make the video too long. This starts around $29,000 unless you want all-wheel drive, and it runs up to around $31,000. Quite a big jump from $22K. For those interested in such facts, I'm told this is based on the Mazda 3 sedan. And number two, it's not made in Japan or the US, it's assembled in Mexico, if you care about those things. By the way, we also tested two other SUVs, a 2020 Hyundai Venue SUV, right there. That was a nice one. And the Kia Seltos SX Turbo. That was another good one. We'll have links for those videos at the end of this Mazda video. Just click and watch. That means you're getting 3 videos for the price of 1. Under the hood is a 2.5 liter, putting out 186 horsepower, hooked to a 6-speed automatic transmission. No CVT gearbox here. Fuel economy is listed at 25 mpg in the city, 32 on the highway, and 27 overall. If you get the 2-wheel drive version, I think that bumps it up 1 mpg more. A lot of YouTubers are complaining that a turbo engine is not offered, but a small turbo engine really doesn't put out much more horsepower than what you get on this bigger non-turbo engine. And frankly, I don't think this chassis could handle more horsepower since it's based on the Mazda 3 sedan, so this is what you get, and I don't think it's going to get any bigger. Unlike many other vehicles I've been testing lately, instead of getting like about a dozen bulbs on the left and a dozen bulbs on the right, we get one large one on the left and one large one on the right. Should be interesting to see how these perform in the dark, and we'll take that out and do it right now. Here the headlights are on a wall 100 feet away. Very bright, good widespread, high beams, more than adequate. Here's what the rearview camera looks like in the dark. Looks sharper than it is on your end. I have a cheap camera, so it doesn't show stuff like this very well. Overall, I guess the headlights passed the test. Here we have the high beams on the building 300 feet away. Pretty decent light, good spread, good low beam. Actually reaches out. I'm impressed. By the way, if you're paying attention, you notice there's a lot of cladding on the bodywork. A source of many complaints on YouTube, but I don't see why. Yeah, it's not an off-road vehicle, but it's durable enough, so why complain? Doesn't bother me at all. Plus the doors go all the way down to the bottom here, so there's no way for dirt to build up and get on your pants. Another good feature. The glove box, medium size, adequate enough. A very simple to use climate control system. A well-designed gauge cluster. There's a switch down here for sport mode driving if you're in a hurry. Let's take a peek in the rear. Yes, we do get a spare tire, even though it's a donut. Better than no spare tire at all. The second row seats fold down for storage. Now we get to some of the complaints. Pardon the dust in here, but it is the desert and very windy, so that's just the way it is. Number one, the radio controls. Instead of simple buttons on the dash, we get this control knob. Apparently they're trying to copy the Germans to make things as difficult as possible. It's going to take about a day or two to figure out how this works. Unnecessarily complex, but you'll figure it out. This vehicle has a so-called safety feature called lane assist, and basically it's a computer-controlled steering system. Doesn't like the way you're driving, takes over the wheel for you. Can be turned off temporarily, but it cannot be deactivated. Every time you turn the car back on, this comes back on, which means another thing you have to do after you start the car. More on that later. The premium version of the CX-30 comes with a heads-up display that reflects in the windshield. I'm showing you this in the dark because it's going to be easier to see than in the daylight in the next clip or two. If we can keep the focus. There we go. Now we'll switch over to daytime. Turning the HUD off is a multi-step process. First you hit the home page, number one. Then you scroll down to settings. Then you punch in vehicle displays at number 3. Then you press active driving display, number 4. Then you go down and hit the off button. As you can see, it's not there anymore, but the problem is you turn the vehicle back on, and there it is again. It cannot be disconnected. So for me, here's the issue. On a normal car, there are 2 steps. You hit the start button here, you put it in gear down here, 2 steps, you drive away. But for me, who wants to disconnect all this nonsense, it's a multi-step. First, you have to start the car, number 1. Then you have to turn off the lane assist, number 2. Then turn off the HUD, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then put it in gear number 8. Every time I get in the car, I have to do this. Now, there's some drivers out there who don't mind all these gadgets, so it won't be an issue for you. It's definitely an issue for me and anyone who doesn't like all these gadgets and wants to turn them off. But for those of you who want to turn off the heads-up display and don't want to go through those 5 rituals, I found out a way to do it very easily and permanently. I went to my drawer, got a pair of black socks, jammed them down in there, and guess what? No more heads-up display reflecting in the windshield. Very simple fix. But I'm going to have to do without a pair of socks for a while. Okay, enough of my complaining about gadgets. Let's take this out and do some driving and get a fuel economy reading. That's what we're really here for, right? Well, it's Labor Day weekend. Another DUI. The power steering's electric, but it has a rack and pinion set up, so it has good feel and feedback. Like most Mazdas, you will not be complaining about the power steering feel or performance, because that's a Mazda trait. Why anybody will want a small turbo engine when you get the same horsepower off a bigger non-turbo engine like this puzzles me. This is more than adequate, especially if you put it in the sport mode. It takes a little while to get running because of the all-wheel drive drag, but moves out pretty good. Very nice brakes. One of the complaints voiced about the CX-30 is the stiff ride. I can tell you it's true, but it has less to do with the vehicle and more to do with the 36 pounds of tire pressure as the factory recommends, which in my opinion is way too much. I have driven these with the tire pressures lowered to 32 pounds, made for a much smoother ride, did not affect handling at all. So why does Mazda recommend the high tire pressures? Mainly for fuel economy, less rolling resistance. For our test, we will be earning the 36 pounds required because that is representative of what the factory wants you to have. They don't like me modifying vehicles, and there's also a liability issue involved. So 36 pounds it is for us. If you have a CX-30, want to lower it down to 32 pounds, that's up to you. We're going to reset the mileage computer to 0 and take a highway trip to actually one level ground, one going uphill. So don't go away. This is basically a comfortable vehicle to drive on the freeway, aside from the rumbling noises coming from the suspension on rough pavement. This thing's making a lot of racket. Maybe it'll smooth out later on as we get on smoother pavement. Well, smooth pavement. That's better. Okay, on level ground, we got 26.3 miles to the gallon with an outside temperature of 105 degrees. But as you can see, with the glare, we can only see half of the instrument panel. This only happens at certain times of the day and certain angles of the sun, but it shouldn't be happening at all, I would think. We're going to continue on from an elevation of 1,500 feet to around 6,500 feet. See what the fuel economy does then. End of the line, let's see what the fuel economy gauge says. By the way, the elevation's of 5,000 feet, not 6,500. I'm taking a different route. 25.3, reasonable enough considering the amount of climbing we were doing. We're going to do some off-road ranch patrol, and the first thing I've noticed, the suspension does not like the washboard dirt road that we're on. It doesn't like it at all. Naturally, the all-wheel drive provides better traction in the soft dirt, but I think this is more of a city pavement vehicle than an off-roader. You take it off-road, tread lightly like I am. This suspension simply doesn't like dirt roads, even two-wheel drive roads like this with an occasional bump. As a result, we have to drive extremely slow. We're never going to make it back to town before dark, so we're going to pull over at one of the ranch spots and just spend the night, then go back in the morning and creep our way back to town on this dirt road and wrap up this video. From my standpoint, this is more of a station wagon than an SUV, but that's just the way I look at it. Just an opinion. Well, I see the full moon is coming out over the hills tonight. That means there's going to be a lot of weird creatures out. Vampire bats, snakes, skunks, Antifa. Guess I better hide in the vehicle till morning or I might not be able to finish this video. I can't believe I spent the night sleeping in this miniature coffin on wheels. Talk about being cramped, but it can be done if you lower the seats. We're going to reset the fuel economy gauge and take a return trip going around 5,500 feet to 1,500 feet. We're coming to the end of the line. Let's pull over and see what the fuel economy ended up being on our downhill run. Okay, we got 33.6 going downhill on the return trip, 25.3 going uphill on the first trip. Add up, divide by 2. That should give us an official highway mileage around 30 miles to the gallon. I guess that's close enough to the 32 mpg claimed on the window sticker. Outside temperature 118 degrees. I think I better turn around and go back to the forest. I think I'm sorry I came back into town. It's going to be hotter tomorrow. So that's my take on this Mazda after a week of driving. Well, keep in mind this is a car, not a real SUV. You really shouldn't be taking this off-road. As for myself, if I was going to buy one, I would get the basic model without all the gadgets. If you love gadgets and all those safety computer features, knock yourself out and get the premium. Here's some links to other compact SUVs we've driven. Just click and watch and subscribe. I need the gas money.